Hello, everyone. Thank you for spending your time here to attend this event. This is our students who are parents, abbreviation SWAP, and Parents on a Mission, PALM event. All parents are welcome. We support here at TCC, we support students who are parents through mentoring, coaching, and resources. I'm Joy Betts. I'm the academic success coach. Not only I provide learning strategies and community resources to students, I also I'm responsible and advise this PALM SWAP student organization. So I work for the Department of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. The abbreviation is DEI. So in the fall semester, there are 8 events. You're attending the 6th event. The 7th one, we have been planning to do an outdoor activity this year. And the 8th event is our celebration. So I hope you can come to the other 2 events as well. So the TCC Student Organization SWAP works in conjunction with TCC Student Life, TCC Foundation, and the Women's Foundation of Oklahoma. Here is today's agenda. We're very honored to have invited Professor Sandra Rana to talk to us. And then after that is followed by a Q&A if you have questions. And this recording will be put on the TCC Mom's website. And then the survey this event is followed by survey and prize drawing. We have 5 prizes for this event. To the gas station, you'll be getting a gift card. So we're going to share at 1:25, Janica is going to talk to our members, our e-board, and share ideas. Last of all, we close at 1:30. So next, we move on to our featured speaker. So Professor Sandra Rana is a faculty member at TCC since June 2016. She has taught American federal government, international relations, comparative politics, and human resources benefits. Her current committee assignments include assisting in the development of college staff and professional diversity training materials. She's the FAF assessment representative for the Department of History and Political Science. Previously, she has been the benefit manager at TCC HR for over 14 years, managing and administer benefit plans for 1,000 full-time employees. Prior to TCC, Professor Sandra Rana worked as a human resource manager for Simulation System Division, Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, where she established the Human Resources Department processes and procedures for the SISSD facility. She was responsible for all of the recruitment, placements, and evaluation employees. She implemented and was responsible for the OFCCP compliance and affirmative action plans. So we're very honored to have her as our special speaker. She's going to talk about career, job, and all that, which she's a specialist. She specializes in that area. So a little side points about our coaching. If you have not made an appointment, please feel free to do so. We provide, as an academic success coach, we provide 8 skills here we hold workshops and provide strategies for learning, time management, social support through different various community resources. So please do feel free to contact us. My colleagues are Dr. Dickens, academic coach Thesia Ziegler, and Michael. So any of us can help you to provide the coaching. So this is my contact information here, as well as I think I left this in the email, outreach email. And then this is our website. After the event, you can go to this website, and I'll put it in the chat box. You can go to this to do a survey about this today's event. So just a reminder, Thanksgiving is coming. I wish everyone an early Thanksgiving holiday, happy holiday with your family. Okay, so family time, sometimes you get some time to play with your kids, right? So we do in our department, in our office, we do have these games prepared for your group. All the TCC students who are in the parental role can lease these for a weekend or so, right? So make sure to use these resources. So in each bag we have the games. It range from thinking games to physical games to children's books. You can rent it out from us. So very good resource, and thanks for the Women's Foundation of Oklahoma for providing this one. So I just have a brief resource. At the end of our event, we have this prize drawing. So I would enter your name. So if all of you there, there are 5 in presence, so you're all automatically be winners. Congratulations. Sometimes we get 30 people, sometimes less because due to students' schedule, some of them have to watch the recording. So thank you again for participating. Let me see. So this is our e-board. We still have some openings, and Jonica and the e-board organize various activities. So we just want to make sure that you know you can join our GroupMe session where you can see informations there. It's a platform to support our student parents daily. So okay, here's my okay, and next I'm going to share my screen, and thank you so much, Dr. Rana, for coming here to talk to our group.
Well, I thank you for having me. Can everybody see the
Yes,
screen?
yes.
Okay. We're going to be talking about conducting a job search. And remember that this is a very individualized process. And I'll try and cover some examples along with this to kind of help you. And our own individual experience sometimes is as good a teacher as any. We're going to look at first self-examination, looking at ourselves, what our skills are, what we can do, what our competencies are, identifying the employer that we're going to be looking for a job, and the presentation. So first of all, it's important to note that the job market is changing dramatically. I'm teaching 3 different classes this semester involving human resources. And one of the main topics in every one of those classes is how much the job market is changing. There is a shortage of skilled and unskilled workers. Some of this is due to the pandemic. Some of it's just because there was poor planning on the part of managers and in part of executives. Not planning ahead, for example, for truck drivers. There was a severe shortage before the pandemic ever hit. There was a shortage of nursing and medical staff. So having the pandemic just kind of compounded that. And you have people who are leaving the workforce. They've been off work for a certain length of time because their businesses closed down or laid them off. And so they're saying, let me find some other kind of job where this won't happen to me. And they've gone back to school. Some people have moved due to the pandemic. There's a lot of people who moved from the urban areas back home. They moved in with their parents or other family members rather than paying rent in large communities that were much more costly. And also they became accustomed to working on Zoom. So the workplace and location of work is changing. I was reading a report from Social Security, and one woman talked about the fact that she decided to take early retirement because she didn't want to have, and I can't even fathom this, but she had a 2-hour drive, a commute to work each way every day. And she decided that it just wasn't worth it for her to do that anymore. And so people have gotten used to working from home, working by Zoom. And so the locations of workplaces have changed. So all of these changes are and shifts in the marketplace, the demographics, means that the labor market has changed dramatically. So let's talk about you. And I love this quote: the way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. So we can talk about doing things, but it really doesn't happen for us until we actually start doing it. So the first thing you need to do is a self-examination, okay? And in this self-examination, you look at all of the things that you have that you can offer to somebody else in the workplace. All your knowledge, your skills, your abilities, and only you know what those are. So you need to start either on your computer with an Excel spreadsheet or with a tablet, and write it down, but put everything in there that you have that you need in your next job. You know, what is important in that job to you? Is it the location of the position? Are you looking for flexible hours or certain days of the week that you want to work? How much compensation is important to you? You know, if you don't have to drive to work, does that mean you're flexible on your compensation? What kind of benefits do you have to have? Are you looking for career growth and potential, or are you looking for the immediacy of a placement where you're at? Time off, how important is that? Flexibility and availability of days off. Are you concerned about the stability of the organization? Is that important to you? Are you concerned about, is this a company that you can be with for several years? Are you looking at just the short term? And also you have to consider, are you going to enjoy the position? One of the things that I did in my political science classes is I had students identify what career they wanted, because oftentimes people go to school, they don't know why they're in school. It's just something they were told to do. They don't really know what they want. And so I had them do kind of an examination of what career goals they have. And it's often very enlightening because many students, when they think they found a career and they start actually researching it, they find out that's not really what they want to do at all. So you need to find a position with the kinds of tasks in it that you're going to really like, that you're going to have a good time doing. If you love a stressful job, then maybe being a billing clerk is not for you. If you don't like a stressful job, then maybe a traffic controller is not what you want to be. So these are kind of the things that you need to be thinking about as you put together that personal inventory. List everything, every single skill that you have, no matter how minute it may be. Just list them all down. List every ability that you have. Again, don't put a fence around it. Put every single thing that you know you have the ability to do. List all of your knowledges, everything, every training class that you've been to, every course that you've taken. Maybe you didn't gain that knowledge in a classroom, maybe through community work, or maybe through family members. Maybe you learned a language, or you learned travel skills. You know, put literally everything down. List all the certificates and licenses that you have. And if there's some you don't have that you have started to complete, list those down too. So you know how far you have to go to complete those certificates or license. List every leadership position that you've had in a job or in a community-based organization, because those leadership skills can translate into the workplace. You know, one of the big things that I have, everybody has a bias in hiring, and my bias, quite honestly, is veterans. I love hiring veterans. It's really important to me. And I had somebody one time ask me, well, what are you going to do with a veteran who's been in the infantry? And I point out to them, you've got to think outside the box. First of all, they have to obey the rules. They have to be on time. They have to be able to think on their feet, literally, and to react to situations in a responsible manner and quickly. So there may be something you did in the community, in a community-based organization. Maybe you were in charge of the treasury. Maybe you had responsibility for getting the book sale done, or the PTA meeting done. There's a variety of things that you can do in a community-based organization or a college-based organization, school. These are all leadership positions that you need to detail in your personal inventory. List every single position title that you ever had and a brief description of it, okay? And then list all your organizational memberships, everything that you belong to throughout your life, okay? Now, all of this personal inventory is for you. This is to get a better picture of what you can do and what you have. I know oftentimes when we have to do a performance evaluation, we'll forget, oh, we went to that meeting, or we had that training session. Oh, yes, I worked on this club or this organization, and you forget. So this is a time for you to put all of those things down in your personal inventory that you're going to use, kind of like a catalog to sort through and build your resume on, okay? Now, there's some key things when you do your resume. Number one, do not include a picture, okay? Pictures become a filtering, whether it's deliberate or accidental. But people going through resumes zero in on that picture and they make judgments about you. So you don't want to put a picture, okay? Be sure that your information on there is current. You have a current mailing address, email address, phone number where they can contact you. That's very, very important. Nothing is more frustrating for someone who's trying to set up interviews than to find out that you have an incorrect address or email or phone number. So be sure that's current. Omit any indicators that might identify your age, your gender, your race, your nationality, okay? So don't put down, I graduated from high school in 1990. Okay, now they can kind of back into how old you must be, all right? So don't do that. It's enough to say that you graduated. For your employment, you can put your last, if you have a long employment history, pick the last few, maybe the last 2 or 3 that were significant, unless the one that you did previous to that, maybe the first job you ever had, relates to the job you're applying for, okay? And again, you don't have to put calendar years, just say I worked for them 5 years, I worked for them 10 years, I worked for them, you know, whatever, okay? Design the information to fit the position you're applying for. So if it's a job that's requiring you to be Spanish speaking, definitely put that in there. If it's a job that requires certain licenses, be sure and list that license. If it doesn't pertain to that job that you're looking for, you might want to think twice about putting it in, okay? And update your information on a regular basis, okay? You don't want the information to be old, and you want to be sure and include all the current things that you are doing. And when you do that resume, again, I'm going to assume that you're going to have this on a computer. Be sure and title it so you know, or put like a second page to it of all the companies that you sent that resume to. So you can track back and know exactly who it is that you reported, that you sent that to. Okay. And another reason for specializing those resumes is, for example, this kind of runs counter to this remark here about indicators. If we are in Oklahoma, if you're applying for a tribal job, a Native American tribal job, and you are tribal American, then you're going to want to put down your CDIB, Certificate Degree of Indian Blood, because they have special rules that apply to employers who are tribal employers that gives preference to hiring of Native Americans. And I know when I was looking for jobs, if I applied for a tribal job, I put down my CDIB because that gave me preference in hiring, but I never put it in anything else. Okay, it was specifically for those kinds of jobs. All right. So let's look at identifying the employer. How do you identify the employer? You know, you can't stand on the corner with a big sign saying, I want a job. I mean, that could work, but probably not. So what's some ways to look for a job? Okay, newspapers, they're kind of old fashioned. They're not used that often, but I wanted to include it that sometimes they will post jobs in newspapers. And yes, really, I have seen jobs being posted on billboards. On Highway 169, you will see signs. I know Macy's has run signs for their warehouse. Some other companies have run job openings, having a job fair, and they've advertised it actually on a highway billboard. And part of that has to do with the fact there's such a critical labor shortage. I didn't list it here, but another one is the evening news. I saw last night where at the East, I think it's Eastland Plaza Mall, there's a company coming in, I think it's called RadTech or Rad Technologies, that's going to be opening up 500 jobs in Tulsa. And it was in the local news. So you can go to the local news website, and sometimes you can catch a news story like that. Look at data sites, you know, like there's an organization called LinkedIn. It's free. Companies will post their jobs with them. If you sign up for it, it's kind of like a Facebook, but for employment. And it's a great way of networking. Oklahoma Employment Security Commission is another free site. It's excellent for finding jobs. Most people think of it as the unemployment office, but they're there to help you get a job. They're also there for employment. And if you are a federal contractor or a federal subcontractor, your jobs have to be posted at the Oklahoma Employment Security Commission. That's a federal requirement. So every job that's being funded by the federal government, every state job, every county job, every city job, all of those jobs have to be posted at the Oklahoma Employment Security Commission. And that's a free site for you, okay? If you are a veteran, they have a subsection under the Oklahoma Employment Security Commission called the Veterans Representatives Program. And they have special representatives located at the Oklahoma Employment Security Commission. And their sole purpose for being is to help veterans find jobs. And they will also help spouses of veterans. So that's another one. For-profit employment agencies, there are a lot of these around town. They usually have specialized areas that they work in, like just accountants or just for factory workers, manufacturing. So bear in mind, though, when you go to these for-profit employment agencies, you're usually going to have to pay them a fee that's the equivalent of 1 month's salary. So be very careful about utilizing them. That's not to say they're not good, but bear in mind it's going to cost you something. And these other things I've mentioned are free to you, okay? College job centers, like at TCC, we just had an announcement about a week or so ago that they're going to expand the job centers that are located at the college, so you can identify what employment is available for students. Company organizational websites. If there's a company in particular that you're interested in, go to their website. They usually will have a listing of job openings, job fairs. Job fairs are still very popular. I know the Cherokee Nation held one recently, and they were complaining about low attendance. And when you go to a job fair, be prepared to be interviewed. Have your resume in your hand, be ready to go. Because the people who attend those job fairs, those employers, they're there for one reason only, and that's to hire somebody. Job fairs are also very good. Usually these are free also. Networking. Everybody knows somebody who knows somebody else. Network with the people that you're around. Let them know that you're looking for employment. Networking is always very important. Trade magazines, that's kind of a weak one, but I threw it in. Sometimes in a particular industry, they'll have job listings posted. The only reason that's kind of a weak one is they're not, it takes a certain length of time to publish these magazines. So sometimes the information is a little dated. So be aware of that. And professional organizations. I know you're all students right now. You can get memberships with professional organizations for a reduced cost. And so this would be a great opportunity for you to join a professional organization. It doesn't cost a lot of money. And that builds back into networking because you get your name out there, they get to know who you are. You attend their meetings, they'll talk about job openings, they'll get familiar with who you are. Always be prepared as if you're going to be in an interview in any of these situations, job fairs, professional organizations. When you do networking, you just never know when that opportunity is going to occur. I went to a training meeting. I'll tell stories about myself. They're not very exciting, but they're factual. I went to a training session one time. It was a presentation of a federal government program. And I spoke up at the meeting and basically kind of forgot it. I mean, I remembered the meeting, but kind of forgot the whole scenario. And then about 8 or 9 months later, the person that was addressing the group and who I'd raised the question with said, "You don't remember me, but I remember you. And you made some good points and I got a job offer." And so you just never know who you're going to make a contact with, even when you weren't attempting to. Okay. The presentation, your presentation, you're trying to sell yourself to an employer. The last thing they want to hear is why did you apply for this job? Well, I needed money. Okay, that's not very impressive. Okay. You need to give a very positive presentation. You're selling yourself to this organization. So I broke this up into 2 parts. One is the Zoom meeting. Okay, be prepared, be on time, and know something about the organization that you're wanting to work for. Okay, now that means at least know their product, know what their focus is. What is it they're building? What is it they're trying to sell? If it's a retail business, know something about their product. It's impressive to have somebody who's being interviewed know something about the company that they're going to work for. When you interview on Zoom, be sure and dress appropriately because they're seeing you, okay? And in advance, be sure the technology works, okay? Be sure the mics, the camera, what's going on behind you, the scene behind you. Be sure it's not a messy kitchen sink or, in your garage. Try and dress it up a little bit. Be sure your internet works. Okay, nothing's worse than to have it drop in the middle. Be on time. Early is better. If the appointment is at noon, be ready on Zoom by 15 minutes, a quarter to 12, just in case something happens. No outside noises or interruptions. And I've had every one of these happen to me in these last 18 months living with Zoom. Barking dogs. Barking dogs can be very distracting. Cute kids walking across the screen, asking for something. Phone calls, hearing the cell phone ringing in the background. All of those things are very distracting. Keep to the important information. Do not wander in the interview. Keep to the discussion at hand, okay? Don't go off on some tangent that has nothing to do with that particular job or what you have to do, okay? Be careful. This is a little trick I'm going to warn you ahead of time about. Be careful of open-ended questions. As interviewers, I can tell you, we love open-ended questions because people will tell you things that they really would normally never tell you. Like an example would be, can you tell me what did you like least about your last job? You don't want to go there, okay? Or can you tell me, give me an example of your worst day at work or your best day at work, okay? Those kind of open-ended questions, or what do you think is a skill that you need to develop? Okay, if someone were to describe you in a positive term and a negative term, what terms would they use? Okay, because usually you end up saying things that are only going to be detrimental to yourself. So kind of be careful of those open-ended questions, which kind of falls into the next category. Never speak poorly of former employers, supervisors, or other employees. Okay, don't do it, because what's going to happen is the person who's interviewing you in the new company or the new organization is going to think, what are they going to say about us? Okay. If it ended badly at the last place, simply think of another way of packaging that in a diplomatic way. I decided that I should take this opportunity to improve my skills, so I went back to school. I thought it was that it would be, in my career plan, it was time to make a change. Never, never, never speak poorly about whoever you worked for in the past, supervisors and employees. Be sure at the conclusion of the interview to ask about the timeline for selection. If they tell you this is the first stage and they've got several other interviews to do, which usually is what happens with Zoom, they do Zoom meetings and then they pick a handful to actually talk to, then you need to know that in advance. If it hasn't been previously mentioned, ask them about the compensation and benefit package, because that shows you have an interest. And always, always, always thank the interviewer for the time and for the opportunity of having that interview, because they took time out of their day, which they didn't have to. So you want to thank them, be gracious. Okay, now for the in-person ones. Some of these repeat themselves. Be prepared, be on time, know the organization, dress appropriately for whatever it is that you're interviewing. Know the location of the interview. You don't want to be playing games with your GPS hunting this down. Be on time. and have the entire time cleared of any other obligations. You don't want to be looking at your watch saying, hey, you know, I've got somewhere I've got to be in 30 minutes. You don't want to do that, okay? Turn off your phone. You don't want any phone calls coming in. Also, remember that your interview starts at the front door, not when you meet the interviewer, but at the front door. One organization that I work for, I'm not quite sure how ethical this is, but anyway, they had a receptionist that was a real sweetheart. Everybody loved this receptionist. And she was the kind of person, she was very innocent. I mean that sincerely. She was very innocent, and she'd ask you all kinds of questions. You know, how was your day? Did you have any trouble getting here? You know, just easygoing. And people would confess all kinds of stuff to her, okay? It wasn't her intention, it was just her nature. And so so after the interview, the boss would go back to her and say, well, what did you think of them? And I truly don't believe she understood the impact she had, because the general consensus was, if you couldn't get along with her, you couldn't get along with anybody, okay? And sometimes they just tell her all kinds of things. Be sure and formally introduce yourself. Keep to the important information. Don't wander in the interview. Again, be careful of those open-ended questions. Never speak poorly of former employers, supervisors, employees. Ask about the timeline. Again, ask about compensation and benefits if it hasn't come in, and always thank the interviewer for their time in the interview. Now, the last one in final notes is, you want to be remembered, but in a good way. I know this is old-fashioned. I will give that point to you, but because it is old-fashioned, it sticks with people. Get a stack of thank you notes and send them a thank you note and say, you know, dear so-and-so, that's why it's important to get their name. I want to thank you for interviewing me on this date for this position. I look forward to hearing from you, and sign your full name, and then put your address, email address, whatever on that card. They never get thank you notes. And if you're interviewing 20 or 30 people, they're going to remember the one person who sent them that card. If you don't get the job, okay, send another thank you note and say, thank you for considering me for this position and for the opportunity for interviewing for your company. I hope you will consider me in any future openings that you have. Again, you've reminded them. I have been in the workplace for a very long time, and I can tell you, as I look and analyze my entire career history, I never got the job I interviewed for. Let me say that again. I never got the job I interviewed for. I would interview for one job, come out of the interview, not get that job, and then I'd get called by that manager or supervisor for another job. And that's the job I got. Even at TCC, the job I applied for was not the job that I got, okay? So don't give up, and always keep a record of who you talked to, what job you interviewed for, and the dates of the interview, so you can keep a track, and the resume that you sent them, so that you know what to relate to in the future dialogue with them. So that's it. Any questions I can answer?
Please feel free to turn on your audio. Okay, do you have any questions, everyone? All right, thank you so much, Dr. Sandra Rana. I think the students maybe are still thinking about their questions.
Okay.
I
They
think
can always get in touch with me through you, so,
Jonica has a question.
yes.
no, I was just gonna say thank you for coming to speaking to us today.
It's my
You did a
pleasure.
wonderful job covering everything.
Yes, thank you for that valuable
And now's the
presentation.
time to look for jobs. There's such a labor shortage, a critical labor shortage. You have more opportunities now, and now these new companies coming into Tulsa, it really broadens the opportunities for people for looking for work. And I understand most of the students listening are parents who are going to school. I even had babies while I was going to school, so I understand how difficult it can be, and trying to juggle, kids and family and all of those other things. But please do not hesitate to use the services at TCC. If you have questions, Joy will be happy to, I'm sure, forward those on to me.
Sure. Thank you. What
you.
comes up to me reminded me that writing a thank you letter is also very, very good. And I remember I just learned that skill with my last job. And I think that it is very polite because I moved office, right? And then I moved on to this office. And then I just remembered I got that by research. And thank you
Right.
for reminding our students. And then the advisor, the students usually file for graduation. I think some of them are graduating probably this spring.
Oh, that's
So-
wonderful.
And they can file for graduation a couple months before then. So this is just right.
Yeah, and you can start looking for your jobs. Don't wait till the day you graduate. If an employer
true.
knows you're getting ready to graduate, chances are that they'll be willing, if not to hold the job, at least consider you when you do graduate.
Right.
I have a
Thank you.
question. What is the Oklahoma website for the federal jobs that you described
Okay,
earlier?
you go to the Oklahoma Employment Security Commission.
Yeah, they probably have a lot of openings for the federal government.
Yeah. Because every
Thank
federal
you.
job has to be listed through there. You can contact those agencies individually, but it would be easier probably to go through the Oklahoma Employment Security Commission.
Okay, and then for every resume that I have, do I have to put my CD?
Do you have to
or
do
is that
what?
for? Do I have to put my CDIB on my resume for every job?
Only if you're filing to work with the tribal government.
Okay.
So if you're going to work for the Muskogee Nation or the Cherokees or the Choctaw or Osage or, any one of those tribes or one of their tribal enterprises like the casinos or Muskogee Nation just acquired a hospital, then you'd want to include it. If you're going to work for Indian Health Service, which is a federal agency, the BIA, Bureau of Indian Affairs, then you're going to want to include it. But for everybody else, no, don't include it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Joy, you're on mute, so we can't hear you.
Okay, so thank you, Dr. Rana, again for her precious, valuable time and very helpful in time presentation.